Here are some things to be worried about, or things to discuss with a customer if you're putting together beneficiary designation at the inception of a life policy. I mentioned earlier that I see a lot of mistakes. The single biggest mistake that I see is that there is no contingent beneficiary named. Got a husband and wife situation, for example. It's insurance on husband's life. He names the wife as the beneficiary, and there's no named contingent beneficiary. What's the default if there's no named contingent? The default is that it's the insured's estate. Is the estate the right beneficiary? In almost all cases, the answer is no. Why? Well, if the estate is named the beneficiary, what you've done is you've turned a non-probate asset, like life insurance, into a probate asset. You're forcing the life insurance proceeds through the estate settlement process, the probate process. And potentially you are making the life insurance proceeds subject to the claims of the decedent's creditors. And those are both things that you want to avoid. Naming a named beneficiary in the contingent beneficiary slot will avoid those problems. In addition to that, in some states, the naming of an estate as the beneficiary of a life insurance policy will subject the life insurance policy to state inheritance taxes or state estate taxes, whereas having a named beneficiary will not do that. And so that's another reason to make sure that there are named contingent beneficiaries. Ohio is an example of a state of that type. Another mistake that we see in beneficiary designations is naming a minor child. We talked about that. Another mistake is failing to consider the special needs of family members. What am I talking about? Let's say that we've got a child with special needs who qualifies for government benefits, needs-based benefits. Benefits like SSI or special benefits for kids with Down syndrome. If those children are named the beneficiary of a life insurance policy and something happens to the insured, might screw up those benefits. And that's certainly not the result that anybody would want. And so making sure that the special needs family members are not named direct beneficiaries is important, and also working perhaps with an estate planning attorney to create a special needs trust, either one that starts now or one that comes into existence only at death, and making that trust the beneficiary of the life insurance policy would be a smarter way to go about doing things. Another mistake that I see is being unclear about fractional language. If you've got uneven beneficiaries, a 50% and two 25%ers, something happens to one of the 25%ers, figuring out who gets that 25% reallocation between the living beneficiaries is important. Also making sure that if there's a predeceased beneficiary, if the insured or policy owner wants the kids of that predeceased beneficiary to stand in their shoes, making sure that we've got language to make that clear in the beneficiary designation is also important. And then I think one last thing is failing to tie the beneficiary language to other documents. This happens a bunch in divorce situations. A divorce decree might say that the husband is required to keep insurance in place. Well, the decree itself might be silent about what the purpose is, or what the consequences are of failure to have the insurance in place, or what the effect of a wrong beneficiary designation might be. And that's a recipe for disaster in the event of the death of the insured. So making sure that the divorce papers and the beneficiary designations tie together is important. We talked about the importance of tying together will and trust documents with proper beneficiary designations. In circumstances where the life insurance is helping to secure a loan, making sure that there's proper collateral assignment documentation and proper language in the beneficiary designation is important. And also beneficiary designation is particularly important in a buy-sell situation.